Oh, and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your lovely host, and I'm joined by my lovely pair of co-hosts for this episode, Alex and Wyatt.
The
Hello,
jelly beans
hello.
couldn't shut me up forever.
Perfect. What a great introduction. We've been playing some games over the past couple of weeks, and we want to talk about them because the last few episodes we've been doing some funky stuff for the YouTube channel for the most part, and playing a lot of random things. Namely because flu came through. It turns out talking for 2 hours when you have the flu is really painful.
Flu just knocked on your doorstep and was like, "Hey, I'm staying for a while.
Yeah, hey,
Sorry,
buckle up, bucko.
I got to crash."
Yeah,
Oh,
I need a
no.
place to stay.
My other host kicked me out.
Let's do the podcast.
Yeah, they
circuit,
took
just go to every one
Mucinex.
possible.
They got Mucinex and I was screwed.
Yep. All right. So we've been playing a lot of games. I want to kick us off with the one that I think is probably gonna be the lengthiest discussion.
I can't wait to hear you guys talk about this episode.
And Alex for this one, 'cause Alex has not been playing Crimson Desert, which is what we're going to talk about for a little while. Jump in whenever you have a question or something, so that we can attempt to answer it. Because I think this is
Wonderful.
the kind of game that benefits from this insanity.
The other disclaimer before we start, I'm gonna try really hard because I'm just gonna say off the rip, I don't think this is a bad video game at all. However, there are parts about this game that send me into a frustrated spiral, and I'm gonna try and do that as little as possible because I want to be as fair to this game as possible, and I want to make my thoughts on the game very clear.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I let myself into this like frustrated spiral, that will become not clear.
Oh boy.
The other thing to be clear about with this one is we're not game reviewers. Our full-time jobs are not games, so we have not finished Crimson Desert. We're nowhere close. I think both Wyatt and I are probably under. I think I'm at like 12-ish hours. Oh no, okay, I've made it to 20. I've made it to 20.
Paul Tassi hasn't, and he's at the 200-hour mark.
Yeah,
somehow.
so we're the reason I say this is that Wyatt and I are still in the it gets good at 30 hours territory.
Yeah.
Which is
Has it gotten good at 30 hours? Before 30 hours?
I kind of want to start there.
No, I think we should. Yeah, I think we should start there.
Because defenses like that can be a very slippery slope because there are many games that I play that I like that have a similar thing where like, well, you gotta get into it a little bit. It's the same with like a TV show where it's like, listen, BoJack Horseman
First
is an
season's a little
incredible
rough.
show.
The Wire takes a season to get going, you know.
Yeah, especially that first episode of BoJack. It's like, why the fuck are people freaking out about this? This is obnoxious, but it's one of the greatest shows ever written. So like, I get it. 30 hours or 20 hours or however many hours people are saying that's when
It's
it
a
gets
lot.
good.
It is like
You
the
can't,
largest.
that's not something to be said where you can just sweep the problems of something under the rug. That is entire game's worth of time
Yeah.
to wait for a
It's way
game
past
to
the
get
refund
good.
window.
That is still a problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting with this one because I generally am okay with a game taking a while to get started. But there is generally with the games that take a long time to get started, there is something that hooks you. And Crimson Desert, I think it's largely the combat at the start because the combat loop
Yeah.
is really, really satisfying. Caveated with the control scheme is, I don't want to say bad because I do think it works after a little while, with the exception of two things, which is there's two skills that need you to hold the left end bumper and left trigger, and then the right bumper and the right trigger when you're doing them. That's just weird. That's hard to do. I would say most people hold a controller. Where's my Starfield example controller over here? Most people hold a controller like this, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
You do that. So doing this is awkward.
That's getting a little too close to the southpaw grip for my comfort.
Yeah,
So.
you
I'd
get into a
I'd
real
also
interesting
argue-
territory.
I'd also argue that certain things like holding both bumpers to like bring out your sword to do like the sword glint thing, but then releasing and then putting and then pressing like left bumper again to like turn your sword
What?
to do like the burning thing is also like, is it
What?
terrible?
That one
No,
doesn't
but
bother
it's
me as much because
very
you don't
weird.
need to do that in combat. Like that's not you're not time pressured to pull that off.
But it's like you could there's no other better way to do this.
But
This is the thing with this game. So there are so many buttons, and they all do a thing. That's the problem. Is like most of the time when controls are awkward, there's buttons that don't do a thing or that do a bad thing. But this one, all the buttons do a thing, and that's bad for the control scheme because there are certain things you want on different buttons, and you just can't do it. Like it's not very customizable.
I do think a good way to put it is Co-Carnage put it, I think, perfectly, where it's like they're not bad, they're unintuitive, which is two different things.
Yeah. You can get used to them.
You can get used to unintuitive. You can get used to bad controls, but it's also like at the detriment of the game a lot of the time.
but that is good to hear. So you guys are saying that like at least the combat feel does grab you from the beginning without, I'm assuming all these
the combat's good to begin with. It's maybe hard to read at the start, but it looks really cool and it feels fun. So the biggest thing is like this game throws a lot of enemies at you all the time, which is at least from the marketing,
are we getting
that
close
did not
to Dynasty Warriors
approaching
levels?
Like
it can start to feel like that sometimes.
It is closer to that than to like a one-on-one Dark Soulsy or like Dark Souls type game for the most part. The boss fights are an exception, but generally speaking, you're fighting a lot of things that take a couple of hits to go down, not one big target except for boss fights. And so the loop is really focused on like maneuvering in a way that keeps them away from you and you able to go through. And unlike Dynasty Warriors, these guys could be kind of hard sometimes. Like they have combat moves that will actually hit you and do things, unlike Dynasty Warriors where they kind of just stand there for you to mow them down unless they're an officer.
The crazy thing that I have to get used to is that typically when you're fighting a large group of enemies, you expect whenever they attack you, it's in like a 3-part combo typically. No, these guys can swing at you like 5 or 6 times in a row.
Oh,
yep.
They get brutal.
You will be flanked, and like they're gonna attack you at different timings.
Oh, that's great. So they do have like combat maneuvers that they
I don't know if it's an intentional maneuver or if their combat system is just like it's hectic. It's very
man.
But it feels fun because of that, and there are definitely like it makes anything you have to clear space very valuable. Or that gives you a defensive moment, and like the different weapons that you can use are all very satisfying with that. I've taken to using the spear quite a lot because it has a counter move that you can hold down and will just counter the first thing that hits you while you're holding it, and do a super damaging attack out, which is really, really good because it hits a lot of people. But it's a problem if there's someone behind you because they can hit you out of the actual attack once you've done the counter.
I will say, you said holding the button. One thing that this game does not make very clear, and that's going to be a common theme
running
theme everything that we talk about, is that this game does not explain itself very well. Is that it is not a combat system where you're tapping the attack button.
You can.
It is a game.
Like it's not going to be a problem if you are.
You can, but I would argue the controls and certain button combinations for attacks
make way more sense when you realize you can hold it.
Yes, but again, the game doesn't, at least as far as I remember,
because it says press. Everywhere it goes, it says press, not hold when you're doing this. So it's like when I want to do the special attack, it says press right bumper and circle. What you can actually do is if you're holding right bumper down, tap circle. You don't need to move your finger that's on the bumper, and you'll do the special attack mid-combo string. So, like, it feels way more fluid once you realize that. And it's kind of weird because there's not a lot of games that do a hold to do melee combo sequence. Most of them are, like, Final Fantasy 15 did it, and it was kind of awkward in 15, but just because 15's, like, system was always awkward until the Royal Edition. But
holding the, like, basic attack button, to me, I relate that to MMOs. Because it's kind of your basic attack, and you're kind of, at least that's how I was been controlling it in like Guild Wars 2, is that you're just kind of holding it. So it feels weird when you're playing like a straight up action game to have a similar thing, but I do think it works. But again, it just doesn't explain it to you. It's bizarre.
It also makes certain things make a lot more sense. Like the parry window is you pressing the attack button right before an attack comes in. So to do that, you have to stop attacking for a second. Well, there's 3 parry windows. So this is one of those things, Alex. So anytime anytime there's
you
a
gotta
thing in
get me into
Crimson
this game with
Desert,
the parry window.
anytime you think Crimson Desert, you hear a thing about Crimson Desert, there will be 3 more versions of that thing that are explained differently. So there's a parry, which is you hold, or you don't hold, you tap the left bumper before you get hit, and you'll like raise your shield or whatever weapon you have to block. And if you do that at the right timing, you'll get a special bonus like animation that you did it at the right timing, and you'll get a break their guard and stuff like that. You can also do that with evading once you unlock it with your skill points, and that will like blink you backwards. So you do like a little magical side shuffle. That is very cool. And then you have the counter or the parry, one of the two. I don't remember which is assigned to which button, but you have an actual parry that is on your attack button. It is just pressing attack right before an enemy hits you. So if you get good at that, you can stop attacking, wait for a hit to come in, hit attack again, and then just keep comboing off of it them never having the ability to react, which is super fun.
And this isn't a thing where each of these different parries can only are like a special type of parry that's used for a certain type of attack.
No, they all do the same functional things. They're just keyed off of different buttons and different situations. And you need to like upgrade your skill to unlock more of them. So you'll start with the ability to do the basic dodge or the shield one. The dodge one is the second level, and then the attack parry is the third. But also this is all just on Cliff. Now I think Damien also has all the same things, but she doesn't like unlock them at the same pacing. It won't get into the whole second character thing later on, because I don't think Wyatt or I have really messed with the other characters very much.
Well, I haven't been able to because of a weird story thing. So I haven't been able to play as Damien for the last like couple hours.
Oh, so you're deeper in the story than I am, because you don't have Damien access, which is funky.
Well, what happened is she was introduced, right? And then I was like, "Oh, this is cool. You're like running around, you're checking out her moveset and everything, and it's all really fun. I love the shield. The gun is a lot of fun. Her like scissor kicks are
She has really cool like rapier lasers that come out when she's using her sword.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's
super
so cool.
fun.
It feels like you're calling down like a lightning strike or something. But every time you go to do a story mission, it's a Cliff specific story mission, and so it's like, no, you can't do this as Damien. You have to switch to Cliff. And I get that there's like Damien specific missions, but it just
as
feels
far as I know,
weird.
all the main story is Cliff, unfortunately.
It feels strange because I didn't see any of those Damien quests at the start, so you just introduce a character where you can't really play that much as her in the main story. But now I'm at a point where there's a specific story thing that's happened, and she kind of disappears for a little bit, and you have to progress further in the story to like be able to use her again. But I'm also stuck on a boss right now, so I'm running around only as Cliff, trying to like refine my gear or find new gear or whatever, so I can get past this boss, just so I can play as Damien again. Which is kind of frustrating, because it's like I really wanted to play around with her moveset more, but I can't because she's stuck behind a boss that I am having a hard time with right now.
Yeah, and they also have a weird approach to designing these characters where they have really asynchronous movesets, and that like Cliff has your essentially Ultra Hand button that you shoot out. Nobody else has that, to my understanding. Either Unka or Damien, which are the other two characters you can play, and that's needed for like most of the puzzles in the game.
It really feels like this whole character swapping thing was added in a lot,
really
like,
late.
kind of really late. Yeah,
or they had intended to do more stuff with the other two and just never got around to it.
But it is weird because she does have nature's grasp.
Yeah, she has like other abilities that are cool, because she has her own like glider mechanisms and stuff too. So like they put a lot of effort into that side of the character in a way that's really impressive. But then you just can't do the main loop of puzzle stuff. Or the other downside of that is you can't access the abyss on those two characters, to my understanding, because I don't have Unka yet, but Damien at least can't. So you can't do the thing where you go to one of the abyss waypoints and then jump off to find a new area. I
also think this wouldn't bother me. This wouldn't bother me at all if they were treated like party members, but they're not. Because whenever you switch to a different character, it like zooms out into.
So Wyatt, let me blow your mind. You can play as a party.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So I didn't know. So you have been changing characters through the map, right? Like doing that thing?
No, I've been switching characters through the radial menu.
Okay, so I don't know what's happening, because I used the radial menu to switch characters right after I unlocked Damien. But what happened is Damien got added to my party. It then just was running around with me, and then
Is that
I had to.
You did, or did the game just do that for you?
I love how this game explains everything. Wow.
It said Damien is coming to gather, and then I hit the start button, and it was like your party has gathered, and it gave me a little loading screen that I popped in like very close to where I was, and then Damien's there with me, and now and then you can hot swap while you're running around between Cliff and Damien.
So you haven't seen this at all. Basically,
I've seen it. No, I've seen it one time because then I figured out how to do the other thing. I still don't know what triggers each of them. I think it's like hitting the summon button on before closing the menu is what triggers the party thing. So like when you're in that, this is why it's so unintuitive.
This sounds like hell.
It's so unnecessarily complicated. But if you go into that character menu and you hold that button, the radial menu, you put it over the character and then hit the bottom face button to summon, they'll pop in around you. And then when you go into that radial menu when they're nearby, you'll just swap to them back and forth. And you can do that whenever you want. You can like revive each other. It's crazy.
This is what we're talking about when we're saying that this game does not explain itself fairly.
Doesn't explain its systems.
And here's the thing. You can chalk that up to, oh, we're just used to having yellow paint in all of our video games if you want to. This is different. This is not the same thing.
I think they needed more UX time. Like there need to be some UX designers looking at this and go like, huh? How do we do this? What's the method of communicating all this stuff? But yeah, that is really cool when you can do the party things. You can go run around the map and do all the sorts of stuff with both characters. But you'll hit certain points where the game will then go, it'll still hit you with this is a Cliff-only story if you have Damien in your party at all. So when you find a Cliff-only story, you have to boot Damien from the party, and she'll go back to camp, and then reload into the scene, and then you can go run around and do the story stuff, which is like, I just don't know what's happening.
Bad.
And you know what's really interesting? One of the biggest questions that most people had when they were advertising this game is, oh my god, it has so many features, will this just be kind of a mess and a nightmare? Or is it just secret genius and we just have to wait and see, right? That was one of the big questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's out, I think I can confidently say that it's both.
yeah, for sure. It super messy, but kind of a hot mess, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way I describe this to we were talking about this a couple days ago. The way I would describe this, because like I've had such a fun time explaining whenever I'm playing this game to my girlfriend, and she's like, "Wait, this is the same game?" Because I keep explaining completely different mechanics.
You'll say a thing and just be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, it's the best way to explain this game, I think, is it's a 20-car pileup of mechanics and systems and all of this stuff going on, but there are also plenty of other times when it's all perfectly laid out in traffic and it's beautiful. And like everything is working and moving the way it's supposed to.
Then something crashes.
And when that happens, it's beautiful and it's amazing. But too many times it becomes a 20-car pileup and then maybe just throw a train crash into there for good measure. Like, hey, it can become a mess.
That sounds like it's fun to watch though.
Well, so that's kind of the thing is like, I feel like I can't recommend Crimson Desert, but I also can't not recommend it. Like, I don't want to say don't play the game, because I'm having a good time with it. But there's a lot of caveats.
You need to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and also, you got to be prepared
for like what I've been hearing is a lot of is, hey, maybe wait until they've done enough updates to where you think you can feel comfortable.
Yeah, but I also think there's something...
You have to be comfortable with a game that feels like it's gaslighting you every step of the way.
Yeah, but you see, the game gives you the tools to gaslight it back.
Wyatt, that's all good, but you see, I need to dress up a cat and a dog in armor.
See that's
and then when
I just
the game
unlocked
does
that.
Stuff like
and
that,
it's crazy. It's super
that's
cool.
Amazing. You could have like armor for your cat.
You can have up to like 30 pets.
That's awesome.
And you can give them little outfits.
I need to start a feline militia.
Apparently they'll loot things for you. I don't...
Yeah, well,
Ooh.
there's so many little details that I love. There's an option where, because you're always, as Cliff, you're always wearing a cloak with a hood, right? Or I guess they don't always have hoods, but a lot of them have hoods, right? You can, there's a really quick and easy way. This is an example of the UI actually being fairly intuitive and nice. There's a very quick way that where you can just select whether you want them to wear the hood or not. Or
Hmm.
if you have a helmet that has like a piece that folds up or something, there's just a very easy way for you to
Like
fold
lift
it
the
up so you
visor.
can. Yeah,
Hmm.
little stuff like that is great. I love the feature where you can just lean on a wall and just kind of hang out in whatever town you're in for a little bit and just feel like you're part of it. I always loved like sitting down on benches in Assassin's Creed just to
Yeah.
feel like you're like in the world a little bit more. All that little stuff is great. You can pick up a cat and walk around with it and pet it.
I
And
That's
that
I
great.
cat will
love the fact
remember
that you
you,
can
and if
not
you
just
keep
carry
coming back
them,
to that
but
cat,
pet them during
you can
that.
come back to that cat repeatedly and make it your pet, and then give it armor. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
There's
got
bet
a lot
there's
of
a
of
some
really
lot of
cool
games
stuff.
are.
great
It's
there's a
a
lot of great
shame
little
that the
things.
story is bog standard to missing a few
Here's
bits.
Well,
okay.
Because this sounds like such a good
So here's
game.
my thing. Here's my
Mechanically
thing.
speaking.
go for it.
I am fine with the game having a like either completely boring or bad story because to Pearl Abyss's credit, they never once advertised it as like a narrative heavy game. It's
There
not their
was never a
focus.
story trailer, yeah.
That's totally fine with me. However, however,
Caveats.
caveats exist. They the game itself spends a lot of time. There are cutscenes where for a game that's not supposed to focus on a story, they went very hard on some of
The
these cutscenes.
direction on the cutscenes
Is
is like
it's
close
good.
to top tier, I would say, for
Yeah.
games,
Oh.
especially
It
boss
just
fights.
makes
Like they
me
get crazy introductions that feel straight out of like some
what
amazing
was it called? The
action
Devil of
movie.
the Reeds or whatever was
Yeah,
oh my god. It was beautiful. Like
this
so well
gorgeous like cutscene
handled.
leading into this fight with
Yeah.
very cool thing. It's super fun.
But it's very and I have heard that it gets better. It gets better after 30 hours. Whatever.
Mm.
But it's very like and then this happens and then this happens with no real strong
No
through line through
connective
any of this stuff. Yeah.
thing, at least at the
And
start.
the other problem that I have is listen, even if all of that was the case, I wouldn't care. The problem is they force you to play the bad storyline
Yep.
to unlock so much of the stuff
That's the
that's
bigger issue
happening
to
in the
me.
game. As soon
Um,
as the game opened up into an open world, I was like, this is a game where like you're just supposed to explore and find cool things. Awesome. So many of the things that you run into are like, no, you can't do this yet. You have to unlock something in the story.
yeah,
So
you
they are
need to get like
forcing
chapter
you.
6-ish in the story, from what I hear, to really be able to do everything.
But they
Um,
force you to play this story that apparently they didn't really want you to play in the first place in order to unlock all of these things.
well, it's weird because
And
like
it's so frustrating
so many of the story
'cause
missions
you don't
aren't
care.
actually like a bad story. It's more like it's almost like it's an anthology in a way of like you'll have like the Sunset Devil and the Reed thing where you have this like single self-contained kind of thing when you're rescuing one of your Greymane friends, and it's a cool standalone story that's very simple but is a fun like self-contained 1 hour long beat basically. And that was super fun. The issue was on either end of it, right? Where you now, okay, I just left to go do my other thing and like go back to the camp. And before, the only reason I run into this story is because I'm looking for one character who shows up and then leaves immediately. So I'm like, you end up in this really funky situation where every main story connective bit is it just feels super tenuous, especially right at the start, where so like plot wise it is very easy to understand what happens at the start of the game, and I'm gonna say we're probably gonna spoil like the first hour-ish of the story. It's been told in the marketing, like there's nothing we're gonna talk about that hasn't been shown in trailers, but the gist of this story is you start, and this is the part that gets me, because like normally when a game is gonna have a moment like this, you tend to start like a couple hours back, or like an hour back at least, so you have a little bit of like if the start of the actual story is Greymanes get betrayed, that is going to be like an hour in the future from where you actually start the game, and then they do the tutorial before, right? So you get this sense of normalcy as you're going through it. and then they tear it all away from you and do this thing, and that's how you're drawn into the story. The problem with this one is you start, and then a bunch of characters are introduced, and it's like, go talk to this guy, go talk to this guy. A dude gets murdered in front of you. You have no context for what's happening. People are yelling about the black bears and some dude with a J in his name that I don't even remember his name because he never showed up on screen, but was apparently important and was like the leader of the Greymanes. Gets killed, thrown through the room, and the Black Bears show up. Who are the Black Bears? They're just a rival group. Just kind of a rival group.
And instead of doing better at mercenary work, decide to kill you?
Because we do kind of know who the Greymanes are. They do say they're like the protectors of Payloon's king or something. But like, that doesn't matter.
Mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. It's not what they're doing right now. And
it's
so
it's just gunk.
It's gunk, and then the start happens, and you have this pretty cool fight sequence through the opening where you like are fighting through the Black Bears as they're attacking, and then Cliff gets dead, like full murder. Man is not alive. You see the light leave his eyes. His throat is slit. He's stabbed through the torso.
Oh my god!
Tossed into a river.
He could not be more dead.
The game makes it incredibly clear that he is dead.
So the whole like rest of this 200 hours, you're actually living out his dying moments.
Well, no. So let's get into what happens next, because this is the part where it gets interesting. Instead
of Cliff
you can
explain this better than I can, because I don't know what the fuck happened.
So I think I've parsed what happens here. So instead of Cliff dying, and I don't remember the order in which this happens in the story. I think it's you go to the Abyss first. So Cliff wakes up in Abyss Land, which is actually in the sky. It doesn't matter. It's called the Abyss, but
it's also not, because you don't always see it when you look up.
Yeah, the Abyss is not like a thing people are aware of, generally. It seems to be like it's like a layer of reality on top of your reality, essentially, in Sky Islands. And you get teleported there or something, and then some magic wizard, maybe gods, save you. There's like an old dude who goes, I'm the protector of the safety of reality. It seems to imply that there's some type of multiverse in danger. Oh
god, Cliff's gonna be summoned to the Avengers.
To say that the game throws a lot at you...
really jumps the shark.
To say that the game throws a lot at you, I feel like is an understatement.
And I don't know if any of this is going to pay off. Like, that's the thing that makes it better, is I have no idea what of the Abyss is actually going to be relevant to the rest of the game.
Just watch this become the most amazing story ever told in the final
150 hours. We'll get there.
No, it gets better. It gets better after 30 hours. You don't understand.
Yeah,
that's when the game becomes a masterpiece.
But we're not even close to done with just the start. And so you get this bit where Magic Wizard Bookcase Man comes down and tells you, hey, things are bad. We need you to save the world. How do you do that? I don't know.
Figure it out.
What do you mean you don't know? You're the master of reality.
And then the white crow lady shows up and is like, here, have my special mantle, which is the glider that you get, and then basically pushes you off the abyss to fall back into regular world.
Just fall.
Just fall.
So that happens, and then it like hard cuts to being in a small town outside of the main city, where you're like living as essentially rescued from the river by a fisherman or something. Someone from the town has rescued you from the river and put you there. So the implication is kind of like, what happened? Did he actually die? The answer is yes, because it very unequivocally Cliff died.
Said.
And he has the scar the whole time. Like, he's got a huge, jagged scar on his neck the whole game. At least as far as we are from this happening. So, like, the game is clearly telling us that Cliff has died. And it has been magically brought back to life.
In a fishing village, saw Cliff's dead and bloated corpse washing down the river and said, I'm going to nurse him back to health.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Abyss brought him back.
So the implication is that the Abyss brought it back.
Gave him life or something.
It is, I think, far more implied that the Abyss made him not dead. And yeah, I actually think the order that this happened was you meet the fisherman first and then end up in the Abyss and a little bit later. But it's like I
don't remember. I genuinely
you can't remember because the sequence of these events is so insane from what happens.
It genuinely feels like
I think I'm getting a migraine from this.
It feels like a fever dream.
You're kind of floating from story idea to story idea with no connected. It feels like a dream.
Well, it's because the problem is it only makes sense after the fact, because when the scenes start, they don't have any explanation as to what's happening, right? So with the fisherman, you have no lead in except for eventually it becomes clear like the situation, but it's not like the scene is playing that for a mystery or something. Like there's no narrative goal to it being as like weirdly directed as it is. And then you end up beating up a couple of thugs to show that you're still good at combat, and then you go back into town with this guy. And then in town, you find a mystical beggar who's like, give me a coin. And then your quest text updates to say, give the beggar a coin. And you give the beggar a coin, and he looks at you and turns into the wizard. Not actually, but yeah, this is the sequence. So this all happens before you go to the abyss for the first time, if I'm remembering this correctly, because it's meant to be that you see the beggar in the abyss, and then
you're better off than I am, man.
You die, you wake up from Riverman, who rescues you. You go into town, you give a coin to a beggar who walks away through a portal of light, and then you just know that you're not supposed to follow the beggar. That's not what's happening. You look down and go below ground to the sewers, where you find a random woman who is like has her hands tied in the sewers and is saying they're gonna get her. And so you free the random woman, who looks at you and goes, "Ah, I trust you," or something, and then vanishes into mist, essentially. And then you go, "Huh, that was weird," and you leave back through the way you came.
I'm really enjoying seeing Alex trying to
the
keep
sequence
up
of
with
these
you
events
right
is so ridiculous.
My
You
head
go
hurts.
back up, leave, and then find a small child that is running around with like weird floaty flowers, who seems to have magic powers, telling you that a cat is stuck or something, and you have to go get the cat. And so you go get the cat and bring the cat back to the child, and then the child says, "What a good job, come visit our village," and then says a bunch of mysterious things and then vanishes.
You started a different RPG
Cinema.
3 fucking times in this intro so far.
And to make
This is
it
the
even
beginning
better,
twist of 3 different games.
I skipped a narrative beat in there, because the first thing you do is you go arm wrestle. Why do you arm wrestle? Why does the story make you arm wrestle? I have no idea. I think it's meant
Also,
to be
why does
you
the
have no
story
money.
make you go to a husband and wife duo who seriously just need to get a divorce already and sweep their chimney and clean their chimney? That is a main.
You have
that
to
is a
sweep-
main
I heard
story
about that. I also heard that mechanic for like the motion is never used again.
I have not used
you have
it
a broom
again.
in your inventory now for the rest of the game, and I have not used it once. I don't know what it
Not
could
used it.
possibly be for.
Oh my god.
This is the type of thing that's like present in this game. I guess it's cool that you can be a chimney sweep. I guess that's helpful in some way. But like the game doesn't make it clear.
I've got to find something. The first town that I come to after I get that broom, I'm swooping every chimney. If
Like I'm
possible.
wondering if
See
maybe
there's
items come out or something. Like I'm sure there's something that you get from it, but the thing, it just is so ridiculous because all of that is required. Like none of that is an optional beat that you can go do. And the biggest thing is this game's strength later on is that it's super explorable. Like that's what we keep hearing. It's what the billing is. But it just does not let you off the leash for so long.
And again, I don't think I would be like picking apart the story so much if they didn't force you to play it to unlock everything. Like, so let me explain why this is.
Yeah,
you can't. And let me explain why this is such a problem, right? Because a lot of comparisons that you're going to see a lot of comparisons to Red Dead Redemption 2. You're going to see a lot of comparisons to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, right?
I
It's
get
like
Tears of the Kingdom. There's literally sky puzzles.
it's like kind of commonly like agreed on that like the game is kind of a mishmash of those two things with like a gear grind in there, right? The thing about Breath of the Wild, especially, Tears of the Kingdom does, but it's not done as well in my opinion. Breath of the Wild is perfect in that it gives you the Great Plateau, which is the tutorial area. It is essentially the entire map shortened down to a tutorial, like a giant tutorial island. And it's done really, really well because it introduces all of the mechanics that you're going to be using to interact with the world in that first area. And it has shrines dedicated to each one of your tools, and it makes it very clear what these things do, and it's kind of up to you on how you want to use those to interact with the world. And then as soon as it opens up, you have everything you need and you can explore to your heart's content. It's perfect because it introduces everything first and then lets you have at it.
Yeah.
This is different in that it opens up the world, but then forces tutorial things and tools on
It's
you
like
at the
you
same time.
had the map of Breath of the Wild, but you can't use any of the shrines or do any of the towers until you go back to the Great Plateau, which has 12 more shrines and is completely linear, and you have to walk, and some of the shrines just tell you how to sweep chimneys.
And
Uh,
it's such an important part of exploration when you feel like you don't have those
yeah.
limitations. There are limitations in place of like, oh, if I want to go up high into the mountains, I'm going to have to find a way to warm myself up. But the game Breath of the Wild teaches you how to do that. It's like you can just eat the peppers, you can cook those peppers into like a warm meal that will warm you up for an extended period of time. You can discover the warm doublet that gives you a little bit of cold protection. It does all of that before unleashing you into the open world. It's such
Yep.
to me, it's such a detrimental thing in this game where it can't it shouldn't be opening up the world this early, even though it is, because it's trying to desperately get you to explore, but you need to stay locked into this weird dream logic story in order to be able to
And
actually
that isn't
appreciate
to say that
exploring.
like the exploration is not also dream logic sometimes. So and this is both a good and a bad thing. Like I actually like that the puzzles here are not as simple as something like Breath of the Wild. Like there are some real head turners when it comes to this stuff. The problem is the game does not have a clear language for communicating any of these things. Like people get mad at yellow paint, but the issue here is there's just nothing. There is often no indication of getting something right, or if there is, it's completely inconsistent with every other puzzle that you see.
Oh.
So a lot of the time it'll be
Huh?
like you have to turn a thing with your ultra hand equivalent, your axiom force, and so you'll use this little like grappling thing to like rotate a ring or something to do a thing, and what that will end up doing is you'll like at least the first times it's introduced, there'll be like a glowy bit, and it'll be like all glowy, and then when it starts to glow really brightly, you know you did it right, and you just let it sit there for a second. In a later puzzle that Wyatt watched me do the other day, there's a
Oh
thing
my
with a glowy
god.
bit in the middle, and I was like, oh, so it's probably the same kind of thing. I gotta look for the glowy thing to glow. And so the glowy thing looked like it was glowing, but what was actually happening is the lighting was just kind of bugging out occasionally when it was at a certain
Oh.
angle. And so that had nothing to do with the puzzle. Now I have since solved the puzzle, completely unrelated to any of that. What was actually the solution for this puzzle is you had to move the platform the ring was on, lock it to a mechanism at the top, which kind of makes sense because it's kind of clear that you're supposed to move it like that. But then you have to rotate it until a sound plays, and then it locks into place very briefly after the sound, like a lock-picking minigame. And you have to do that to all three of these things, and then do it to a centerpiece, and then you'll activate a thing that you can go use to continue a puzzle. So, kind of a cool system, but it's just completely inconsistent with how everything else had worked up until
There
that point, and the art
there's
style does not lend itself to clarity.
there's a difference between like Atreus in God of War telling you how to solve the puzzle and the puzzle being well communicated to the player. Those are two different things because you can just have an NPC say like, "Oh, maybe we should hit this button at this certain time with the da 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 da," and it just tells you how to do it, and that's
Also bad, yeah, in
no,
its own way.
also bad. But there's
Boy.
also like again, I go back to Breath of the Wild. Like the shrines may have been kind of simple and over too quickly, but they were also very clear in terms of these are the things you can interact with. This is your goal.
Well, Breath of the
There were
Wild also
very
has a
few
really
times.
simple visual language of like orange light is a thing that probably needs to be done, right? So it's like
Yeah.
maybe you need to put a ball in the orange socket or like something else like that.
Orange light is a light switch that's off. Blue light
Yeah.
is a light switch that's on.
Crimson Desert
Very
just has
simple.
blue light. Like there isn't another thing like the method they'll try to use in some of the puzzles to point you to something is they'll have like a spotlight in the environment shining blue light onto a thing. That doesn't actually tell you anything that you're supposed to do. It's just kind of directing you in a general area. And it gets super complicated with what you're actually meant to do, and so it's hard to get used to that. That'll probably get easier the longer you play the game because you'll just know the controls and understand what's going on. But at
But
least at the
that's not
start,
through
it's
good game
very
design.
confusing.
That's not
It
like
does not
that's
ease you
that's
into
my
it.
thing. That's my thing.
But the thing
is that it's
too
like,
is
sure,
I don't know
you
if it's going to come up in the story later on. The story's going to tell me how to do it, right? Like, because it seems like the story's still tutorializing me 20 hours in.
Because that's the thing is that
Well, what's
like
the
you
most
can.
recent tutorial-esque thing that you've run into?
I learned how to dye
Like,
clothes. That was the last quest I did. Was learning
That's
how to dye
tutorialized
clothes.
in a quest.
Yeah, it was a Greyman's quest. So this is the thing where there's like paths they could have taken to make this better. So what it seems like, once you're kind of let a little bit more loose in chapter 4, where you've kind of gathered your camp and you have like a bunch of NPCs around now, you've got your little ability to like go run around and do a bunch of stuff. You unlock a bunch of side quests from the Greymanes, who are your like little faction buddies. Those side quests, at least the starting ones, seem to be introducing mechanics and like other options of activities and things you can go do. So like I just did a sequence where I learned how to steal a wagon and go put it into a fence if I needed money, so I can take wagons and go deliver them for things. There's one that's like how to do
We've had
a
similar
Dragon Age
playtime, and
Inquisition mission board.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, it's because
That
they
is-
don't tell you that these Greymane things are going to be unlocking mechanics, and so you don't know to do them.
This is the problem where like if you don't want the story to be the focus of your game, that's totally fine. It needs to be unobtrusive. And if you have a story that's taking away playable characters and locking tutorials behind this kind of stuff without telling us these things, it becomes obtrusive. And so while yes, your game may not focus on the story, your story is still hindering a lot of the
I mean,
gameplay.
it's really like it is a UX problem, right? Of just not telling,
Yeah.
like most other games would just put a, hey, Damien will be unavailable for a while after this, or like something like that at the start of that mission, so you know, okay, I shouldn't start this until I'm good to go on, and not worried about not having access to her for a bit, or being locked in an area for a little while or something like that. So, like, there's solutions other games have had for these problems, and the sense that I get is they just didn't think about the rest of the industry while making this, and to look at any type of solution that they have done. Aside from like
working a
Red
little
Dead
bit
2.
too much in isolation.
Genuinely, they should have just, if they really didn't want a story, which is totally fine, they should have just had the entire story be the tutorial and then set you out in the open world and be like, how make whatever stories you want to have with these side quests and stuff.
Well, it's also
But
you
the
still
main
get the
story's
story,
done.
right? Because like the Devil in the Reeds thing could totally have been a contained like faction quest for the Greymanes, right? It didn't even need to be a part of the main story functionally. So it's just kind of like there's a delineation in the game that there is a main story to go do, but a lot of the better content seems to be in these faction quests that you unlock as you go. And so it seems like the game just doesn't do a good job of filtering people to go do those side things, especially because they put them all in the same place, and it's clear that there are different tiers of them. So there's ones that are like requisitions, which seem to just be go talk to a person and give them an item or something similar. It's like those don't have anything interesting, which the main story makes you do. Like it makes you do 3 of those at the start when you go like get the shopkeeper's things, and then you have to like go get them an ingot or something. It's strange, and it's just a simple introduction to how to buy items at a shop.
You know what confused me? I never finished this quest, and so it's been a while, so maybe I missed something. But for the butcher in the starting town, right? She wants you to make like a fish porridge, right? For her. And then the reward is the recipe for the fish porridge, but you already have to know how to make the fish soup.
I guess
So
is
like
that something
But
so that
no,
you
she
can
gives you
auto
the
make?
she gives you the recipe as you get that, but the reward is an inventory increase.
okay.
It increases your
Ah,
inventory size for doing that quest.
Okay. All right. That's my bad. But
Yeah, the fish recipe is part of the quest, but yeah, you get an extra thing.
okay.
But like, there's just tons of oddball stuff like that. There's lots of weird decisions that got made. It is odd that I am doing Greymane's quest and their tutorials. Like, I don't mind it that much. I've seen a lot of people online be like, "Oh, I really don't like that they're tutorial quests," but I don't know. I'd rather learn how to dye a thing and a random side thing that has some like dialogue that's actually kind of interesting. And this is the other thing. The dialogue is bizarre because it waffles between like genuinely well written and interesting to just completely incoherent. Like there's
Yeah.
no
Oh,
middle
God.
ground. And the voice actors
Yeah.
kill it the whole time. The voice actors are doing great. Uh
They're
but
great. Yeah.
it's super
so
weird because like the main story has Wyatt, you and I've talked about this a bunch. The main story has these like pauses. Like everyone pauses for like 2 seconds.
Like you were talking,
random
it might
times.
be something with
It's
the
probably a
translation.
translation thing.
That's what
if I had
I'm
to guess.
betting. Is probably related to it being localized to English, but it's
There's
really
also
noticeable.
There's also times where like 4 or 5 characters are talking at the same time, but
Oh
they don't
no.
show the like the subtitles for everyone. And I'm assuming that's also a translation thing. But oh my god, it's like as someone who already has auditory processing issues to begin with, I don't fucking understand a word anyone is
Yeah.
saying when there's 3 or 4 people talking.
But it's weird because the script is actually quite good a lot of the time. So it's just like something got lost in translation to where some of these missions, and the weird thing is they're mostly main missions, are getting a completely incoherent, completely bland Cliff who seems to have no character whatsoever. Voice actor still killing it, doing a great job, but like Cliff himself has no thoughts on most things that happen in the main quest, it seems. And then you'll do side stuff, and the side stuff, especially with the Greymanes, there is like in-depth dialogue between him and the other Greymanes that is actually quite good. And so it's just really weird that it's split that way.
It feels like
Are
they
any of the
should've
Greymanes
either...
surprised to see Cliff alive?
Oh, all of them.
When he
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
all
Yeah,
of them.
good.
You get like legitimately, I like this. When you first see the Grey Remains, there's like a big, I never thought I'd see you alive again, and then you generally are like hugging your companions and stuff as you meet them. Like it feels like they are old friends reuniting every time you find someone, which is very
I think
cool.
ultimately the problem is they either should have had no story or gone all in on the story. The problem is they landed somewhere in the middle, and I think that just makes things more confusing.
It's weird because I think like broadly what this game seems to want to be a mix of is Red Dead 2 and Breath of the Wild, but I also think there's a significant amount of Elder Scrolls in there. Like I think there's a significant bit of them wanting to be in the position that Skyrim was in when Skyrim came out. But it's something to understand about like Elder Scrolls games is that they generally don't require you to do the main story, and the main story is kind of inconsequential to the rest of the game. In terms of like you being able to go do things. There's exceptions like Skyrim. If you want dragon shouts, you need to do a bit of the main story. But
I think they may have brute forced the Skyrim feeling with sheer size.
That's the thing, right? Is like there are these interesting faction quests. There's a ton of factions that have their own things. There's like lots of side stuff that is quite cool. But the main story is really incoherent at the start and just like oddly paced. And then it's coupled with the combat feeling really weird and a bunch of stuff in the skill tree just being locked off and not knowing what will transfer to other characters and all that. There's a bunch of things that are just like available for you to unlock but will not appear until you get them, which is cool in concept, I think, as like I'll discover this, but in reality is just really confusing. And you just end up with a lot of that. So it's like it's odd because I think there's a lot of really cool things in this game, and I am starting to, I think, get over the hump of getting into the actual quote unquote the good part. But I don't know. Like we'll see in 20 hours how I'm feeling about it. I think
You look like you have thoughts.
I don't know. It's such a tightrope to walk with, like, this game gets good after X amount of hours. Because like I've said, there are entire games where you can fit, for a lot of people, right? They're saying it's like 20 to 30 hours, right? You can fit 1.5 to 2 Resident Evil games, full Resident Evil 9s, in the time that it takes this one game to get good.
Yeah, but I do think that like both sides of that argument are fair because like I'll use Final Fantasy XIV as a good example, right? Like where Realm Reborn is, I wouldn't say it's actively bad, but it's slow. It's very like Alex, you recently have gone through.
There's
it
a lot of dialogue. I finally did the like I think last night or 2 nights ago, I did the solo duty that was defending the bridge in Ishgard. So I am almost there.
Yeah.
To the end of the post patches. The problem with that is that now, with that being one of the last combats that I do, it is only going back and forth to talk with people.
Yeah. So Final Fantasy XIV especially has the same thing where it's like you, especially in Realm Reborn, you are going around and talking to people, and that's most of the game. And then you'll get to the fun stuff when you get a dungeon or something, but then you go back and talk to people, and it kind of depends on your tolerance for that stuff as to whether or not it's going to be a problem. But when you get past that hump, like the whole arc of Heaven's Ward through Shadowbringers is some of the or Endwalker is some of the most satisfying video game I've ever played. Right, like there is a thing where there's not an equivalency. Like, yeah, okay, it sucks at the start. It's kind of bad, right? Like,
I've also
like
heard
40 hours of weird stuff at the start. So
I've also heard from Tommy that because we're working with the first like the base content, pretty much the first bit of the story here. That's 50 levels of content that's going to be padded along with a lot of talking, whereas each expansion is just 10 more levels after.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the case, because expansions are 10 levels for leveling, but they generally have, like, when an MMO releases an expansion in vertical progression, like a Guild Wars, or not Guild Wars, like a Final Fantasy or a World of Warcraft, you have 10 levels of actual leveling, but then you have the end game, which is kind of its own thing, and generally pretty long. So it's not like you get just 10 levels of story per expansion. It's generally 10 levels of story and then a year of patches of stuff. Now, that stuff is usually really good, right? But it doesn't work out to be quite the same ratio. But yeah, like, I think there are often games that have a rough start and get way better that I would not trade for, like, yes, I could have played 5 Resident Evils. I probably will be able to play 5 Resident Evils anyway, right? Like, I don't think it's going to prevent me from playing the Resident Evils that I want to play.
I'm so excited to see you play Requiem.
So I'm very excited for Requiem.
I guess where I begin to have an issue with it is when it's like, that's a defense, and it's like, no, that's still a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
it's like
we can't just act like that forgives a slow start. Like, it's the same thing with BoJack Horseman. It's like I often wonder. I go back to that example because it's like I wonder how much more the story would have hit for me if that first season had hit like the rest of the show had. If we had like a real good introduction to all of these characters. I don't know. And the other thing to say too is that it's like you can't really blame someone for giving up if they don't want to get past that that slow start.
Yeah. But again, it's like this is one of the hardest bits of any game's feedback to actually talk about, because both sides are right? Like, it is an issue that the start is bad, and it is fine to stop the game during that start because you aren't having fun. But you can't then go yell at someone who got past it and is having fun and say, stop having fun, right? Because it was bad. Yeah, and I think generally that's what the internet ends up doing with those, is that you'll get to that point and then start throwing vitriol at the other side for no reason. But yeah, like, I think it really just depends on the type of games you like, because if you are if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, you're used to long games, so like the 20-ish hour start of Crimson Desert, and like you can speed through it. Like, I'm taking it pretty slow, and so you could get through a lot of this stuff way faster. And then you'd be into the meat of the game and stuff. So like, if you're used to those lengths of long RPGs, or like you play a lot of Baldur's Gate or something, like games that are super lengthy, I don't think a 20-hour start is like slow start is going to deter you from wanting to play the game. Because once you get past that, you never need to do it again. So it's not like you're replaying that same opening repeatedly.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's just a really interesting problem to have, but also I think this is kind of where the more interesting thing about Crimson Desert is, I think, revealed a fault in the review process for games in a lot of ways, because
like they gave them 2 weeks for the review copy head starts. How long is the usual
I don't know. I'm not super aware.
It really depends on publisher.
Look like. Yeah,
it really depends on publisher. To be honest.
This game is long enough that it feels like a month would have been appropriate, right? But at the same time, I totally get them not wanting to not sell the game for a month to wait for reviews to come out.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's kind of with any long RPG, there's always going to be the case where the expectation of reviewers is not necessarily that they've done every single thing. It's more that I would generally say, like, when I see a review for a game, my expectation is that you finished the game and given it a fair shake, whatever that means for the genre you're playing. If that's like the game unlocks a huge post game, like an MMO, I expect that you have beaten the story and gotten significantly into the post game, right? If it's a single narrative thing like Life is Strange, I don't expect that. Like, I'd expect you finish the game once and you tell us what you thought about it. Maybe you play a different route if you want to see more of it and let us know how the choices differentiate.
We also have to make that clear too.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I finished the story. I made these choices, or like I aligned with this faction or whatever it is. Like you have to make that clear, or at the very least, just say this is essentially an extended impression. If it's a game like this, where it's going to take hundreds of hours, be like, hey, I've played 75 hours. I'm nowhere close to being done. Here are my extended impressions so
Yeah.
far.
Which to their credit, a lot of places did do. But I think
Mhm.
it reveals a problem when it comes to like scoring a game like this, because it's hard to say a score is invalid because they didn't play like 300 hours of the game. But it also is in some ways a misrepresentation of the game if they review it and give it a number after playing it for only the opening 10 or something, right? And I think Crimson Desert is really like one of the revealers of the games that's an issue for, which is just fascinating. It's a really interesting game to look at, and I am looking forward to playing more of it to kind of delve into what's going on
Yeah.
with this game. But
I in terms of me going back to play it, this is tough because I want to. I want to get to that point that everyone's talking about where like it clicks for you, and I thought it did at one point, and then I kind of had to take that back because I was like, no, I'm still, I don't know, this is still feeling very slow and very strange to me. The other thing I think is important to point out is you and I, despite the fact that we've been playing the same game, have been having fairly different
yeah,
technical
oh yeah,
experiences. You've been playing on PC, which from all that I've
Oh
heard
yeah,
is
that
a
too.
very, very well
yeah. I'll be very
made
specific with
PC.
it too. I'm playing on a PC with a 5080 and a modern Intel i9, so quite good specs and 64 gigs of RAM. So
Mhm.
generally high end PC. I've had zero-ish technical issues, with the exception of like, and why it's seen this too. The lighting is weird. Like, this game has odd lighting,
The lighting is,
specifically in
listen, no, I'm gonna be a little
interiors.
bit more
There,
harsh. The
there's also
lighting
been
is
like,
fucked. I'm sorry. In many instances, if the game is like middle of the day, the sun is out, there's some
Hmm.
clouds in the sky, it looks gorgeous. It looks beautiful. Almost any other context, it is weird.
It's got
It just
really,
doesn't
really
look right.
aggressive like light attenuation for when you're looking at like a dark space or a light space, which is just
Yeah.
really funky. Like, you can look at a cloud and the whole scene will get way darker,
And all
and
of
stuff like
this
that.
is compounded and made worse when you play this game the way that I've been playing it on a base PS5 that I got at launch.
And to be clear,
Um,
base PS5 is not a slouch console. Like, Ghost
it
of
really
Yotei is a gorgeous game and runs perfect
hmm,
on it. So
might I also remind people that both in performance and quality mode, Spider-Man 2 had ray tracing in every version of it and it ran perfectly. So like this
hmm,
is not a slouch console by any means. I feel like it's starting to feel that way because not a lot of games are getting very
yeah,
good console ports these days, but it
hmm,
is a very very capable machine when you actually take the time to port, you know, something over. To their credit, with all of the patches that have been coming out, and they've been fixing and adding quite a few things, so I do want to give Pearl Abyss credit for that. It has gotten better, but the PS5 performance is weird. So I've been playing on performance mode because I feel like this kind of game just does not lend itself well to like 40 or 30 frames per second. I really think it just doesn't work in
hmm,
that context. But it's very aliased. It is
yeah,
crunchy across the
hmm,
board. And the frame rate when you're running around the open world is okay. It's not a solid 60, but for the most part it's okay. But as soon as you get into towns and stuff, it really tanks. and the lighting stuff that we were talking about, it gets worse
Mhm.
for a PS5. I was showing Ryan some stuff in the first town where there's like you have to
It just gets
like go
super
down a
blown
ladder.
out.
It's very there are parts that look like just pitch black and you cannot see anything. And I'd even argue that like you can argue that this is a stylistic choice, but middle of the night in this game looks like there's a sun in the sky somewhere. But like a
Oh.
sun that's like much further away or something. But it's just like it's way too well lit. And like nighttime
I,
in video games often look a little too lit for like visibility, which I
hmm,
understand, but this goes far beyond that, I think. It looks way too bright. And again, you can argue that maybe it's some sort of stylistic choice, but it's the art style itself is like fairly photorealistic. So it just feels weird. It just feels out of place to me.
Yeah.
I
Um
am.
I think that has been putting a damper on my experience with the game because the PS5 port is just not where it needs to be. Even after a couple of updates that have helped quite a bit, it's still not great. Unfortunately. So in terms of whether I want to return to it, I really don't know. Um Honestly, it's been kind of pushing me away in favor of games that are more tightly designed. Like games that I
Mhm.
feel like have a much smaller scope. Like my biggest problem with this game is that, and again, maybe this is just because I haven't hit the like Danny DeVito like, oh my god, I get it yet. But it just feels like it has mechanics and systems for the sake of having them, and so much of it feels kind of unnecessary. It just begins to feel like bloat after a while for me. Like I'll start a play session for maybe like an hour or two, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of into this. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. This is cool. And then by the end, it's like I feel like half of the stuff that I did could have been removed or like streamlined in some way. It just feels very. At times, it feels very inelegant with the amount of features that it has, and maybe that wouldn't be a problem if these things were explained in a
Mm,
better,
Mhm.
more concise way. But that's the problem that I'm having right now is that it feels like so much of this stuff is unnecessary or that it's just poorly explained or both.
Yeah, I think for me the thing that gets me is that I don't mind unnecessary systems in most games. Like I actually generally think that like if you have a system that's just there for the sake of being there, if it's fun, that's fine. And I'm
Mm.
glad it's there generally. But with this game, it's a combination of it has a lot of systems. So far, I haven't found any of them that are like actually pointless, aside from the chimney sweeping thing. I don't know what that was. Um, but at the same time, like I don't know what the chimney sweeping thing, if I even would count that as a system. Like I think that's just a thing you can do if you want to, and you don't
a
need to.
gimmick.
It's like, I mean, Red Dead has plenty of those, right? Like there's plenty of things you can just kind of do, and there's no point to them in Red Dead, but they're there for the sake of immersion. It feels like that kind of thing. I don't know why they thought Cliff needed to be a chimney sweep. Don't know, but it's there. Will it ever affect my thought process with this game? I don't think so, because I can just forget about it. But the problem is that they make you do it, right? Like they introduce this thing, make you do it as part of the story. It's completely inane and seems to have no effect on anything else, and you can seem to fully ignore it. Now, I don't mind being able to fully ignore systems. Like, again, we've talked about Elder Scrolls a bunch. In Elder Scrolls, you can fully ignore one of the many playstyles whenever you choose one. Like, if you do a magic user, you're going to ignore melee and ranged for the most part, right? You're just going to use magic.
Mm.
If you do a stealth archer, you're going to ignore any sense of melee combat or magic casting most of the time. So
If you play a stealth archer, you're gonna ignore a sense of difficulty in the game.
yeah, like I don't think it is inherently a problem to have systems that people will not use if they choose to play differently. I think the issue is that there are systems that people will not use that you force them to use and then expect there to be a good result.
Mm.
It's a lot of that where it's like I'm being forced to do all these things in the
Yeah,
main story
you
that may just not seem necessary.
maybe not the main story, but you mentioned with the mercenary quests where you're getting all these
Mhm.
tutorials. Are all these like available from the start, or do you have to work your way one by one through each other to unlock each of these as a
They're
tutorial
related to
aspect?
characters, so like it depends on which ones you're doing. Like the one I'm doing with Naira is about learning how to dye things, and that seems to just be because she cares about being able to dye clothes, right? And it's like, I want to learn how to do dye making, and it's a little character.
Okay, but you
beat.
don't have to learn how to dye clothes to learn how to like unlock your ultimate like.
Yeah, like it's a
power
self-contained side quest, to my knowledge. So you do this, you learn how to do dyeing things, and then you go back to your camp and you can dye stuff now. And so there's like that's very simple. Same with like the wagon stealing thing, is that was part of one of Yan's quests, as he has a drunken escapade and tries to take a wagon from bandits and gets a bad wagon. And so you have to figure out how to get rid of a wagon you don't need. And then you learn about wagon fences, you can sell wagons to. So it's kind of like those fences? Ones. Those ones kind of follow a line of thought that I think is a little bit more easy to understand than any of the stuff at the start, where it's like a character does a thing and is like, oops, I goofed, and now need you to solve the problem. And that's how you learn a new mechanic, and that seems fine. Especially because they're optional, so like you don't have to engage with any of this stuff if you don't want to. It seems like there will be pretty significant rewards for doing so. Like I'm unlocking a ton of... One of the things I just realized is there, and this one didn't have a tutorial. I feel like it should have. Is in your camp, you can send people on missions to do things. The game makes you do it one time for the main story to like improve your Gray Main camp. Where you'll like open the map up, you go in, you click on the Gray Main camp, and then you can like start a mission to like reconstruct the camp. That's all done through the map, and so you do it through the map, and the way that works then is you have to pick the location on the map, and then there's a mission tab that you send them to. That's really slow when you start unlocking missions in other places and you don't know what missions are where. So I was trying to like search through individual locations to find missions. I was like, this is really wacky. There's like 100 locations here. How do I find the one mission I need? Turns out you can go back to the camp and go walk up to a guy who has a map out, and then it'll just pull up a map with all the missions and just let you do them from there. And I'm like, why didn't the game tell me this was here? Because it's way easier. And it seems to be a critical gameplay mechanic for expanding your camp. So just really, it's kind of nonsensical as to what is where in regards to side systems and stuff.
I think that's why this game having an overabundance of features bothers me, is because it isn't explained well. Like, I'd be so much more okay with it if it just made it clear, like, these are the features that are really core to the experience, and these are ones that are kind of ancillary, or just explains them at all.
You know what this game needed, Wyatt? It needed a paper manual. Like, I needed a manual to come with this game that had a list of things that I should understand.
Here's my thing. Again, if you want to unshackle this game from your story that you supposedly don't really want us to focus on in the first place, have the whole system where you're learning things be the tutorial where you learn things. There's a whole feature where you look at something, and then as you see someone in the world do an action, you learn how to do that action. Super cool idea. I'm actually really into it. But I feel like it's so underdeveloped, and I feel like a lot of it feels very kind of surface level. Like, it's cool when you learn how to do a move.
It's weird that I can walk up to a chicken and not know that it's a chicken.
Huh?
Without picking it up. That's strange.
Yeah. Oh.
It's weird. But again, why didn't they tie tutorials to this system? I feel like it was made for that. And again, if you want to unshackle a lot of the story, if you want to unshackle a lot of the story stuff from this, there you go. That's how you do it. That would be a great vessel for that.
So I think the kind of takeaway from all of this is, if you are the type of person who isn't bothered by the systemsy stuff and isn't bothered by the slow start to the story and like the side quests being more cool than the main story generally, at least at the point that we're at. Again, I don't think either one of us played more than 20 hours of this. Probably both around that.
Something like that.
So, like, if none of that sounds like it bothers you, or you have a high tolerance for it, you'll probably have a good time. If you don't, maybe check back in like 6 months. Because the pace of updates for the game has been insane and like very encouraging, with the caveat that it seems like they're maybe moving a little quick, because sometimes they break a thing when they fix things. But they like broke the horse follow mode, which was really unfortunate because you need to do that all the time. And then, but luckily they patched it immediately to fix it, so like it's not a huge concern.
Well, again, that was an example of like, oh, this is a cool feature. We always complain in Bethesda games that characters walk too fucking slowly. Here, you just hold a button, and whether you're on foot or on horse or whatever, you just follow behind someone and you go at the same pace that they do. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like, a lot
and I believe it had a tutorial as well. Like, I believe it popped a message up for that one. So like, not like a special story, but it was like you can hold X to follow this
Yeah.
person behind them. I'm using PlayStation controls, so that would be what, A on Xbox. So yeah, very sensible, cool thing to do. But yeah, it seems like this game will end up being very good. I think. I don't know if they have any plans for DLC or stuff, because I wouldn't be surprised if they did like DLC for the characters. I could see like an
Maybe some story DLC.
Yeah, getting more stuff to do and character upgrades.
This is an example, and this sounds kind of harsh. I really want a sequel, because now that they know what they're doing, it really feels like the development of this game was kind of a mess. If some of the leaked interviews with former employees is anything to go by, it seems like the development of this game was kind of a fucking mess.
Weird structure.
And very weird structure. If any of it's true, we really don't know. It's a lot of like, I know a guy that knows a guy.
Yeah, a lot of hearsay.
But I will say, if that was the case, I'm not at all surprised, because I think a lot of that reflects in the game itself. I would really love a sequel that just tightens all this stuff up, and I think there's something really special here. I think there's already something special
just
here.
Get a couple of UX designers, please.
Play test your game. I don't know if this game was play tested. It just feels like it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think there's something here. It just feels very chaotic and very unrefined. And I think a sequel with a proper development cycle can really tighten these things up. Because here's the thing, they don't need to add any more features in a sequel. They already have every single feature. So all they need to do now is just kind of take what they have and really
I would take a second mech, though.
There's a first mech?
Oh yeah, there's a mech in the game.
Remember when I was joking about, oh, my head hurts, this is so confusing? I'm not joking anymore. I can feel a tension headache coming on.
Look, a mech being in the game is a great thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
It is a great thing. There's too much.
Yeah,
There's
so
too much for one video.
This is the thing with Crimson Desert. Like we opened this being like, oh, we're gonna talk about the games we've been playing. We've talked about Crimson Desert for an hour and 10 minutes, and we haven't even played past the 20-hour mark.
I'm just gonna be down here.
This game's a lot. Well, my transition with that was,
let you talk
hey, Wyatt,
more,
you want to talk about something? Because we're... I feel like we kind of hit the limit on what we can go through with Crimson Desert right now.
I do. There's a couple other things I've been playing. To be honest, and like I said, the playing through Crimson Desert has made me really love games that I feel are really tightly designed.
Yeah, want something in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And this one, while it does have a lot of kind of sandboxy experimentation to it, I still feel like has a lot of the classic like Nintendo like tight design. I've been playing Echoes of Wisdom recently.
That game is phenomenal.
Dude, I played that game a little bit when it first came out, and I was like, this is neat, but it didn't really click for me. I came back to it recently, and I felt like my brain exploded in a good way. I was like, oh my god, this game is genius. This game is so cool. I have never played a game where a bed is the most useful thing.
You could possibly find.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not aware, it's like
it
feels very, at first it feels very top-down traditional 2D Zelda. Right down to the same art style from their Link's Awakening remaster. So it's a great art style right off the bat. But in this one you play as Zelda, and you have the ability to look at objects in the world, and then you can basically spawn them into the world and move them around. This can apply to like tables, benches, chairs, whatever. But this can also apply to enemies. When you defeat enemies, you can spawn them in, and they'll fight for you in the same kind of pattern that they would, if they were fighting against you. And it's all kind of packed into this like kind of traditionally designed Zelda world. And it's excellent. I think it's a great middle ground between a structured Zelda game and the kind of open-ended sandbox of Breath of the Wild. I feel like it's like right down the middle perfectly balances those two things, because you have those tight-knit Zelda dungeons with a good amount of ways to solve it using the different tools at your expense. There are things. This is a game. It's a good example of a game not explaining something to you, but it's communicated well enough where you're able to figure it out for yourself. There's basically like an ultra hand ability in this game where you cast out Try, who's kind of like your little tutorial guy, and he
Your
can
little
grab
fairy buddy.
objects and then you can he can grab objects and then you can kind of move them around. There's a bunch of enemies in the game that use shields, and you're like, God, these guys are dickheads. Like nothing I use, none of the tools I use can get past their shield. And then randomly you're like, wait a minute, you cast it out at the shield and then you could pull the shield from its hand.
Right.
Beautiful, fantastic. Or I love the idea of like you set down what are those things in for some reason they're in this game. What are those things in Kirby? They're like the little spike balls.
Spiky
Those little
boys.
like spiky boys. Yeah. You can set that down, ultra-handed enemy, and then pull them towards the spike ball and continually
Ooh.
damage them in like a trap.
Can
It's
you move around the
amazing.
spike ball and use it like a big flail?
Yeah, you can pick up the spike ball and move it around, or you can cast it right in front of you so it damages it as the enemy's trying to walk towards you. So you have
Mm.
like a makeshift melee ability almost, or you have an ability later on where you can cast it out way in front of you, so you have almost like a makeshift ranged ability. It's so fucking cool. You can
Yeah.
like build your own bridges using a bunch of beds, which is great, or sleep in the beds to like heal you. There's a thing where you're gathering different ingredients to like make little health or stamina smoothies. It's fucking great, and it has that classic like Zelda, like I'm on an adventure right now
Hmm.
kind of feel. I love it. It's kind of becoming one of my favorite Zelda games that I've
Yeah,
played
it's
now
super
that I'm
good.
going back and trying to play them. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me the first time I tried to play this game, but I did not
I mean,
give
it's
this
very
game the
puzzly, so
credit it
I
deserved.
totally get, like, if you're not in the mood for, like, a puzzly thing, you might go, oh, I don't know, and then not play it, but yeah, it's great when it clicks.
Yeah,
Hey,
great
Alex,
stuff.
you been playing
Yep.
anything you want to talk about?
Boy, howdy have I. I've had my fingers in a lot of pies, so I'm probably gonna rapid fire all of them, and you guys just pick what you want to hear more of. Okay, so
There was the
ah,
backflip for anyone listening
I
who didn't have the video.
It was a full backflip, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
the one that I would definitely like both of you guys to play some more of with me is Sworn, because that is a fantastic
Hell
multiplayer
yeah.
Hades game with the King Arthur mythos going on.
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying that. What else we got going? I've been playing Tainted Grail. Not going to talk about that because we have our own full
We're
like
going to talk
game
about that
cast
more
about
later.
it. Bopple Battle, a fantastic game that I know White doesn't want to hear any
Bopple
more
keeps coming
about, but
back.
it's such
Hey,
fun chaos.
listen. I don't. There's some sort of narrative that's formed where I don't like Bopple Battle, and that is simply not the case. I don't like playing Bopple Battle with you guys. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Um, all right, continuing. Preemptively saying CEO of the people who made this game's an asshole. I don't know about the rest of the devs. I hope they're perfectly fine people. Trying out Lords of the Fallen with Tommy because they have a friend pass thing going on.
Mm.
Mm,
Um, started Guild Wars 2. I like my
hell
big
yeah.
furry cat cow
Right as
lady
I've
that I've
stopped
made.
playing it.
Yep.
Damn it.
Yep. Finished the story to Neo 3. Oh my god, that game is so cool. I love it. It has good pairing. I love the action sense to it. Oh,
I'm going to stop us at
good
Neo 3
stuff.
for a second, because we talked about Neo 3 a
How are
lot.
you playing this many games without your brain exploding? Oh
Well,
my
it's because
god.
it's been a while
I'm
since we've had a
sampling a lot of
regular
them.
podcast
Yeah.
episode.
That's
So
true. That's true.
we got a backlog of games to talk about that we've been playing in the interim. Yeah, Neo 3 is super fun. I still haven't finished it yet because I've been slow burning it, and then Crimson Desert came out and took over my time very effectively. But yeah, playing that in co-op, especially when it works, we've had a couple of technical issues with the co-op
Yeah.
that we hadn't had at the
Yeah.
start. But the actual
Fingers
co-op for
crossed
that
we have
game
it
is
figured out,
super
though.
fun. It seems to be working now, but yeah, it's super fun to play in co-op, especially because it has a feeling that isn't nearly as intense in terms of like
Mm.
the stress level as a Souls game usually is. It's usually just a lot more. It's still difficult, but it's not
Yeah.
uh-oh, I'm going to lose everything when I die, and I'm really
Yeah.
worried about what's going to happen. It's more, okay, well, reapproach the strategy, think of a different way to handle things, then go approach the problem slightly differently, and you'll be able to get through it. So, super fun in co-op. Tons of stuff to do. A really dense game full of a lot of
Oh, yeah.
things that are all very fun. Lots of, like, cool open spaces to explore. Very cool weapon types, as
I
always with
really
Neo.
like how the open fields are
Yeah,
built
I'm
and
super excited to
stuff.
see whatever the DLC for this one is going to be, assuming they do it. Because both of the other Neo games have gotten 2 DLC packs, I think, has been what they've been doing. So I assume we'll get a thing for this one as well. But yeah, quite fun. And the way they do the story in this one is pretty interesting, because it's almost like little... There is a through-line story with your main character, but you also get kind of time-based anthology style stories from different periods of Japanese history, which is quite cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, really fun overall. I know, Alex, you finished it, so what was your full takeaway?
I I love the game. It's great. It's probably contender for my game of the year.
Super
Uh,
good.
for
Yeah,
this, I think the music is what the overall like game of the experience is wonderful. I think the combat flow absolutely nails your more like heavy samurai versus the ninja
hmm,
styles. The story is really fun too. Seeing what you pull off with how epic the time traveling adventures feel.
very fun.
Um, yeah, and it feels really good to parry in that game.
It does, absolutely. Um, all right, I'm gonna jump into the thing because you mentioned your game of the year being Neo. I want to talk about the thing that's currently holding my game of the year spot, which is a
Aha!
ridiculous game. That is also one of the
In
ones
name
that,
and
like,
everything else.
this is, if this game sounds cool, go play it, because there is nothing else like it. I've been playing Screamer, and to be clear, I finished Screamer, which for those who don't know is Milestone. It's a Milestone racing game that has kind of an anime aesthetic. It's animated, I believe, by the studio that has done some of the Clone Wars animation. So quite a
Oh,
good
huh.
studio to do the cutscenes and stuff. It's got a bit of a visual novel story going on, but most of the story is told during the races and in between. The whole thing is it's a tournament arc of racing. So you've got 5 teams joining this racing competition to win the Screamer tournament and get $1 billion, basically. Basically just an ungodly amount of money in cyberpunk future where they all need money, except most of the teams have an ulterior motive for being there that gets revealed throughout the game. And it is ridiculous. The story is full of a level of like conniving and backstabbery and character death that you wouldn't expect from a racing game. There are legitimate main character deaths in this game. There's whole romance subplots. There's a whole like redemption arc for character. Like they fit a lot of stuff into the story of this.
And then, as soon as those characters are redeemed, they're backstabbed.
Look, that's what makes the tournament brilliant. And yeah, I'm not going to mention anything about the latter half of the story because I think it reaches a point where it transcends what I have seen in any racing game before. And I think it's important to experience that. If you're at all into arcade racers, this is both mechanically a really good one and story wise just absolutely insane. I don't know that I can commit to it being good in terms of the story, but I can commit to it being entertaining the whole way through.
I
Um,
feel like for a racing game, that's more than what
yeah,
most people get
like
in a
it's better
racing
than most
game.
racing games. To be very clear here,
Yeah.
most racing games just don't have a story. This one has a very
Most racing games
entertaining
don't let your
one.
car go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that's also a problem. Hey, most racing games get it under control. Let your car go Super Saiyan.
This is really
It's pretty sick.
interesting. So I was looking up what else the studio has worked on, and it's mostly like very standard looking like racing
Yeah, they
games,
do
like
the
Monster
Moto
Jam,
series.
Hot Wheels, Ride, MotoGP. Like, not saying these games look bad, but they don't look like Screamer.
Yeah, Screamer is
You
crazy.
know,
It is a hard pivot for Milestone, and a hard pivot I'm really
that's
glad
cool.
they took because yeah, it's really really fun. Um, it's a great arcade racer, and the way it works is you basically have every character has their own car that is their car, and so you can race. That's kind of your car selection. You can customize all of them with different parts that you unlock by doing races. There's a whole like local co-op situation. You can even play local co-op on PC, which is really fun. Um,
Good for them,
so
honestly.
yeah,
You don't see
great
enough of that.
accessibility of stuff. The real highlight here though is the story. Like if you're picking this game up, you pick it up for the story.
Mm.
Because the other modes, the racing mechanics of this game are good, and the tracks are quite fun, but it is kind of simple. Like it's a track-based racer, so I think you know what you're getting into if you're a fan of racing games with that. Where like do not expect a Forza Horizon side activity anywhere here. Like you're getting every bit of gameplay in this game is track racing. There will be objectives, like it's not always to win the race. Sometimes it's to like KO a character or do something else. So sometimes you have a little bit of like burnout stuff in there, but generally speaking, it is straightforward racing with a layer that is really fun of like this oddball fighting game inspired system. Where you have like the ability to boost, shield, and strike, and then sometimes like a special character ability that puts your car into Super Saiyan or will do other things. So you can like strike other cards to explode them, and then they'll respawn a little bit behind where they were, and that'll give you more boosts that you can then boost with. But you can also get struck and exploded unless you shield, which you need boost meter for, so you won't boost if you use that. It's really interesting, but you want to spend as much boost as possible to build as much of the strike stuff as you can, because if you hit the maximum, you can overdrive, which puts your car into super speed. But if you hit a wall while you're in super speed, you explode, and that's bad.
Oh.
So it's got this whole like loop of risk reward built on top of it, but it's very simple at the same time. Like it keeps everything under control in a way that's very good. Where like it still has that arcade feeling, but you can still kind of win the race based on just doing good. With the exception being occasionally there's a story mission that will require you to like KO a specific character or be in a specific spot in the race list, and sometimes the AI just doesn't cooperate. And you'll have to retry it, but none of the races are that long that that's really a problem. So yeah, super fun game, heavily recommended. It is a little expensive, I think, for a track racer, being at $60, but I think it's worth it.
60.
So yeah,
I
it's
thought it was
launched
gonna
at
be 40.
60. That's what I would have expected. Like this game, I think would have sold a lot more had it released at 40.
Do you think it's worth 60?
Or 50.
I mean, it seems.
I think it's worth it. Yeah, I had a great time, and would heavily recommend it. But I do think like this is a game that looks super weird, and it kind of is super weird. So it's a little niche to throw a full $60 at if you're unsure. But I think if you're even on the fence of this one, you'll probably enjoy it enough to warrant that. Because like at least with the story, I could not put the game down. Like
Oh, you didn't even mention the voice acting at all yet either.
oh, it's great. Yeah, they do a Tekken style voice acting where they have every character speaks their native language, and then everyone has translators. So you hear the voice acting for each character as the language of that character, which is super cool. The only caveat with that is there is a slight downside of sometimes there is mid-race dialogue that will be happening, and you know I can't
read?
understand in that
You
language.
can't read when you're going mock shit.
When I'm going mock fuck, and so you need to like
I'm
trying to
trying
read
not
during that is
crash into
hard.
a wall.
How would
But
you?
yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out because like I feel like with racing games, I feel like I'm on the verge of liking a lot of racing games. I've grown to really like kart racers, so like I'm really into Mario Kart. Right?
Yeah.
So like how do you think it would for people who are into just kind of like a Mario Kart versus like traditional racing games?
I think you'll be more into this than you would have other racing games, because it's a track racer, so it's very familiar to something like Mario Kart. The mechanics are tighter. Like you need to engage with braking in a way that you will not in a Mario Kart game. Like you have to corner correctly. That
Is
said,
it gonna tell
it's
you
not
how
like,
to do it, or is it like someone who's familiar with racing games should know this?
You'll get a feel for it. Like it's not a complicated game. You accelerate, you decelerate, and you use special ability, and that's all the mechanics, right? And you steer.
Have you tried the local co-op? Like, what does that look like? Is it just races?
Oh yeah, it's racing. We can try it. It has Steam Remote Play, so And give it a shot if you want to try it. But yeah, it's super fun.
Absolutely.
Um, just a really solid racing game. The main thing is the story. Like the story is what will hook you, I think, if you're playing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're willing to be along for the insane ride, it's gonna be a ride. The only caveat is that it ends with I wouldn't say huge cliffhanger, but it does a cliffhanger ending a little bit. Like I'm satisfied with the story, but they clearly tease something else. And I want that second thing to get made so badly. Like, I think the way I put it in our chat is this is the game that I don't know that this will get a sequel. It is the game I most want to see a sequel for that I've played in a long time because I have to know where it's going.
Seeing a future category for our Game of the Year list this year.
Yeah, I'm just like I gotta see it. I gotta know what's going on. But yeah, super fun. Heavily recommended if you're on the fence about racing games. All right. Anyone else play the thing they want to talk about? We have time for one or two more.
I have another video game and a board game in mind, so I'm gonna rattle them off super quickly. I went back and I finished Metroid Prime 4. Now, caveat out of the way, I am not a big Metroid guy. I have nothing against it. I just haven't played a lot of them before. I've never played a Prime game before, other than a little bit of remaster. With all that said, I liked it. And I'm increasingly feeling like I'm the only one that enjoyed this video game.
Really? Oh.
Very understandably so. I think people who are looking for a traditional Prime experience is not really getting it with this. I agree that like it is only a Metroidvania in like the very most strictest form, like sense of the term. There's not a whole lot of like intelligent backtracking. Honestly, if it feels like anything to me, it feels more like Zelda in that yes, there is backtracking, but it's mostly to grab like upgrades and stuff that you had noticed but couldn't really pick up the first time around. You're not doing a lot of like major backtracking to previous areas. Except for like a couple of times, but again, it feels very linear. But it's a gorgeous looking game. And fucking a great looking game running at 120 frames per second on a Switch 2 is a sentence I didn't think I'd ever say. But it's almost like a Zelda structure, but with the vibe of like Halo is like the best way to describe it. And so from that perspective, I kind of love it. It was really cool. I don't think the characters were nearly as annoying, or at least they were annoying, but they didn't really ruin the game for me like it did for a lot of people. I do think the ending was a bit poo. I'm just gonna be honest. The last boss had some cool parts to it, but some of it felt like a bit of a slog, and the ending was for the story was just fucking. I don't even know what really happened, to be honest with you, but there's a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, the kind of open world soul desert bit in the middle is kind of empty and kind of underdeveloped, but not like a terrible idea in concept.
Nice.
I liked it, but I also understand if hardcore Prime fans are not a fan. I understand. The other thing I played, and I don't have it in front of me because I played this at a board game cafe that's nearby, but I had never played. There's a game board game I've been meaning to keep my eye on called Plunder. And imagine, I don't know if you've heard of this before. Imagine Settlers of Catan, but you're pirates, and instead of being very passive aggressive by building roads to block people, you can just fucking shoot people with your cannons now.
Of course.
You're going around, you're capturing islands, which can then give you kind of more resources, and you spend resource cards on, you can either get new ships or you can buy cannons or sails for your ships, so that when you're doing, like, if you add more cannons, it's basically like an attack modifier, or when you're rolling to sail around, if you have more sails, it's like a movement modifier, which is really nice. They have really fun mechanics where, like, you can say, hey, I'm going to come attack your ship. If you give me X amount of resources, I won't attack you. They have, like, built-in bribery, which is really fun.
Very good.
Yeah, again, it feels a bit like Catan, if you can just shoot people with giant cannons. And I was a big fan. It's a lot of fun. And it has the randomized maps, which in board games, I love a good randomized map in a board game. I always love the different solutions that they come up with for that. So
Mhm.
good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's super cool. All right, Alex, you got something? Anything else you want to run through?
Last thing I think I'm gonna touch on is Warframe because they had their Shadow
Hell
Grabber
yeah.
update.
Foley's very cool.
Yes, I just finished crafting her, and I'm inking a lot of enemies.
Hell yeah. I do want to build her gun too. Her gun looks very cool.
I haven't gotten into quite damage yet, but I am always a sucker for a new beam rifle weapon that comes out. That's I like a
Absolutely.
continuous bullet.
All right. Well, that'll do us for this week, which means we're jumping straight into shoutouts. But I'll go ahead because the last game I wanted to mention is a game I'll do in shoutouts because I think it's a fun one. I got to play Clank Catacombs for the first time, which is a board game sequel to Clank, which is another well-known deck builder board game, where it's
I've
like a
heard the name. Yeah.
competitive dungeon crawler thing where the catacomb difference is you build the map, whereas Clank itself has like a pre-built map. So you're
Oh.
like competitively building a dungeon while you're trying to race your friends to the exit, but get all the loot that you possibly can. It is very fun. Yeah, it was a super fun time. I lost very badly. So I got very, very unlucky with some card draws, but it was still quite fun. So I heavily recommend
Hell
checking
yeah.
Clank out if you're into competitive deck builders.
I'll go next. I'll briefly go through some of the birthday presents that I got because it was
Hell
my
yeah.
birthday. So one thing I got for Christmas was my dad had an old portable record player, and he said, "I have no use for this. Here, take it," because he's moving houses, so he's trying to get rid of stuff. But I don't have any vinyl, and I don't really know that world all that well. But what my friends got me was vinyl for Random
Aha.
Access Memories, one of the greatest albums ever fucking made. I love every single song. I love this duo so much, and it will never ever depress me that I'll never be able to see them live, and that makes me so sad. But I have not opened this yet, but I'm very excited to check this out. And the other present that I got is as you know, I have the Deep Rock board game. Love it. It's probably one of my favorite board games of all time. I also have the expansion for it, which is great and adds all sorts of cool stuff. The problem is those are two boxes, and the Deep Rock Galactic like deluxe edition box that I have is fucking huge.
Mm.
And so one of the gifts that I got was these 3D printed sets. There's a ton of them, but it basically allows you to organize the base game and the expansion all in the same box,
Oh
Super
my
good.
god.
which is amazing.
I tell
So
you how
there's
close I'm getting to
so
buying
many
a
of them.
3D printer solely to organize my board games.
Yeah. Like there's so many things for like cards. Here's a little cutout for all the dwarves. It has this awesome thing where it has all the stuff for your cards and then it's all labeled and
Ooh.
like has separate
Mm.
dividers for everything, which is
Oh,
awesome. There's no instructions, but it does tell you right on the pieces what goes where. So if you can see that,
nice.
which is also really nice. So I don't know how any of this fits together, and I'm sure it's going to take a whole project of a day to figure out, but that's awesome.
That's super cool. All right, bring us home, Alex.
Cool.
Oh, he's off
Cool,
screen.
cool, 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 cool. Yep. Yeah.
Wandering the
Just
halls.
not doing another pack opening, just showing off the most recent shiny guy that I got because he looks very cool.
Ooh,
And I have card protectors for them now.
Really sure? We could do another pack opening if
nice.
we want to do a pack opening. I got some
Oh, for fuck's sake! Fuck's
Let's
sake!
do it. My shout out are Ryan's cards.
How about this? You have to do a pack while the outro is playing. You only have that long.
Yeah, okay. So it's ready,
Oh.
but Wyatt, first I need to Final Fantasy VII character. Who are we getting?
Okay. How many can I
7.
list? I'll list 3. How many are
Yeah.
in the pack? I'll list 3. Barrett, the dog guy. I forget his name.
Red 13? Is that one?
Red 13, thank you. And who's that schmuck that keeps showing up?
Oh,
And
Johnny?
he's like a cocky shit. Johnny.
Johnny.
Yeah.
All right.
Barret,
Well, we got a
Dog, and
weird
Johnny.
dragon. Oh, there's a little Moogle. That's great.
Moogle!
Oh, suplexes. That's good. Let's see. Did we get any of the things you wanted? Oh, we got
Come on,
Torgal.
Ryan, hurry
That's
up.
great. Torgal, that's a good pick.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, I don't think Wyatt, you were really off base. Oh no, wait. Full Barret. There we go. Wyatt got
Yes!
Oh!
We
That
did it,
looks
baby!
awesome!